For decades, we dismissed objects in the sky as error or imagination. But now, trained observers are saying something completely different. They are admitting that they don't even know what they're looking at. And that changes everything. This is the other side of normal. Okay, here we go. Let's do this. Straight into it. Serious face. Serious. But, you know, when your teleprompter doesn't want to teleprompt, what are you supposed to do? Here we are. Finally. Fuck me, what a pain in the arse that was. Oh, I hate technology. This is the one bit where I'm just like, oh, this is right in my brain. Anyway, so yeah, welcome. After all that fucking about, I'm just gonna crack on with it. And just listen. I'm sorry. Yeah, nightmare. I'll keep adjusting the words. My teleprompter decided to not work. After all that, it turned out that I was doing something wrong, which I don't like doing. Hence the reason I'm angry. Anyway, got my name in shiny lights and shiny fabric. It's basically a dishcloth with my logo on it, but it's class. I love it. Boys are taking a piss, don't care. Right, UFOs. For most of modern history, unidentified objects in the sky were treated as mistakes. Pilots saw something unusual and it was logged as misidentification. Yeah? Radar picked up something inconsistent and it was written off just an interference. The system worked on an assumption. I can't fucking talk because I'm using nicotine patches. Calm me down. So the screaming in my head stops. The system worked on an assumption, yeah? It was more likely an error than a discovery. So if that's what they're saying, then they're not nowhere near going to admit to aliens. That assumption held for decades, and it shaped how the subject was handled. Okay? So, the term UFO became part of the problem. It carried a built-in conclusion that whatever was being observed wasn't credible. Over time, that label sort of discouraged serious reporting. Pilots avoided it. Professionals distanced themselves from it. And as a result, the data that did exist remained incomplete. Make sense? That began to change when the language changed, introducing UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. That was introduced officially to remove the stigma of UFO. The goal was simple: encourage reporting without bias. When that shift happened, more incidents were documented and the data became harder to ignore. In June 21, a report examined 144 military encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena recorded between 2004 and 2021. Out of those 144 cases, only one was fully explained. The remaining 143 were categorized as unidentified. The report stated most of the UAP reported probably do represent physical objects, given that a majority of UAP were registered across multiple sensors, that matters. Because in aviation and defense systems, a single sensor can fail. Radar can misread, infrared can misinterpret, human vision can be flawed, I suppose. But when multiple independent systems all register the same object at the same time, the likelihood of simple error drops significantly. Significantly. Common sense, bruh. That same report, I need this again. Some UAP appeared to remain stationary in winds aloft. Move against the wind. Maneuver abruptly. Like that. Or move at considerable speed, without discernible means of propulsion. That description doesn't confirm what these objects are, but it does define what they are not. They are not behaving like conventional aircraft. Not your typical Boeing, you know? They are not following known aerodynamic limits, and they are not easily explained using existing models. Now, to understand how that plays out in a real-world scenario, you have to look at one of the most documented cases, being the 2004 Nimitz encounter. Now, in November 2004, a US Navy strike group were conducting routine training exercises off the coast of California. This wasn't an unusual setting. It was controlled, structured, and monitored by advanced radar systems designed to track aerial objects with high precision. In the days leading up to the encounter, radar operators began detecting unknown objects at extreme altitudes. Now we're talking like 80,000 feet. What made these detections unusual wasn't just their altitude, but their behavior. The objects would descend rapidly, dropping tens of thousands of feet in seconds before stabilizing at lower altitudes. The way I imagine it is straight down, but then stop dead. From the programs I've seen on it, and that's what I took from it. They would hover, remain stationary, and then disappear from radar entirely. At first, these detections were treated as possible system errors. That's standard procedure, but the consistency of the detections over multiple days made that explanation less convincing. Eventually, pilots were sent to investigate. Enter Commander David Fravor. He was one of the pilots redirected to intercept the object. He was not an experienced observer. He was a commanding officer with years of operational flying experience, trained specifically to identify and assess aerial threats. So, in his account, he described the object as having no wings, no rotors, and no visible propulsion. Okay. As he approached, he noticed a disturbance in the ocean below. He described the water as churning, as if something larger might be just beneath the surface. Hovering above that disturbance was a white oblong object approximately 40 feet in length. Now, Mr. Commander, David, attempted to close distance. As he did, the object began to react. It mirrored his movements, maintaining position and distance in a way that suggested controlled response rather than random motion. He later stated it accelerated like nothing I've ever seen. According to his account, the object went from stationary hover to one of visual range almost instantly. There was no gradual acceleration, no visible propulsion, and no sonic boom, boom. Shortly after the visual contact was lost, radar systems detected the object again, this time at a different location, approximately 60 miles away, at a pre-arranged rendezvous point. Yeah? This was a location known to the pilots as part of their mission, which raises a separate question about how the object appeared there so quickly. Fravor later summarized his assessment by saying the technology was far superior to anything we had. Now that statement is important, but it needs to be interpreted carefully. It is not a claim about origin. It is a comparison based on observed performance. It defines a gap between what was seen and what is known to exist. At this point, it becomes necessary to separate fact from interpretation. What are the facts? The facts are straightforward. Objects were detected on radar. Pilots were sent to intercept them. Visual contact was made. The objects displayed unusual flight characteristics, and official agencies have confirmed that these incidents remain unexplained. What is not confirmed is what are they? There is no verified evidence that they are extraterrestrial. None. There is no confirmed recovery of craft or materials, and no official body has made that claim. In 2023, an independent study concluded, we find no evidence that UAP have an extraterrestrial origin. But in the same report, it was also stated that many incidents remained unexplained. That is where the situation currently stands. Not in confirmation, but in some guys in a tie saying, we don't know. Uncertainty. Or at least they're being honest. So, some sightings are explained, sorry about my hair, and not being dismissed. They are being documented, analysed and studied. That shift from dismissal to investigation is the point that matters, because once something is acknowledged as real but not understood, it stops being a question of belief. It becomes a question of limits. The limits of current technology. The limits of current understanding. The limits of what we can confidently explain as human beings. And right now, those limits are being tested.